End of the week, ladies and gentlemen. And the day before the coronation of His Majesty King Charles III, which will be quite an occasion. More Hollywood, I would have thought, than anything else. No wonder the Americans love all of that British pomp and ceremony. It's better than Hollywood because, you know, the jewels are real. The whole thing is quite genuine, antique, steeped in history. I'll look forward to seeing that tomorrow. I really will. Oh, by the way, we left you yesterday with a great song. That was a marvellous song, Pete.
Thank you.
Just mentioning the passing of Gordon Lightfoot. I would like to add one other singer to, I think we said Buddy Holly, Buddy Holly, Gordon Lightfoot, John Denver, and we add Chris Christopherson to that list. You just have a pile of those guys' records, and I think you're probably set for the rest of your musical life, frankly. Anyway, we'll get to the stuff of the day. It's VE Day on Monday, by the way. I thought it might have been this week, but no. May the 5th. 1930, Amy Johnson takes off, first woman to fly solo from England to Australia. She was, for the Americans, what Nancy Bird Walton was to Australia. They were about the same time and did the same sort of things, all with great courage and great style, worked their way into history. Just fabulous people. Imagine taking off in things as flimsy as, well, there's one over there, tiger moth, sort of stuck together with, anyway. Tyrone Power, American actor, Mark of Zorro, other movies. Born 1914 in Cincinnati, Ohio. He died in 1958. Tyrone Power. Tyrone, good name. The perfume Chanel No. 5 was released by fashion designer Coco Chanel in 1921. Just imagine how much money that would have made for that company. I mean, the Chanel No. 5 was basically generically synonymous with perfume for a whole glamorous generation of people. And I must tell you, I don't think I've even ever smelt it. I don't know. Have you, Pete?
No.
I wonder what it smells like. It's probably $1,000 a bottle or something. Karl Marx, the German philosopher, communist, manifesto, Das Kapital. He was born in Prussia. He died in 1883, born 1818. Now, if you counted up the number of people that he would be responsible for their deaths, it would be squillions, I don't know. Karl Marx, for God's sake. And you know, as a communist, the funny thing, somebody told me that it costs £1. They charge £1 to go to his grave, which is in London. It's amazing how many communists ended up in England. But can you imagine the communist ideal being to charge ordinary people to go and see the guy's grave? Sounds like capitalism, Carl. Sorry. Henry Cavill, English actor, born in the Jersey Islands, well, the Channel Islands, Jersey on the Channel Islands, 1983. Do you say Jersey or Guernsey?
I think, it's Guernsey, I think.
Yeah, could be. Never been there. Edward Ravenscroft patents the screw-on bottle cap. Golly, 1936. The screw-on bottle cap. What an innovation that was at the time. Michael Palin, English comedian, Monty Python, of course, Fish Called Wanda, travel commentator, born in Scotland, 1943. The Norwegian government in exile formed in London on this day in 1940. Crocodile Dundee actors Paul Hogan. He was 50. Linda Kozlowski, 32, at their newly built $3 million mansion at faraway Possum Creek in New South Wales, tied the knot, got married, 1990. Richard E. Grant, he was born in Swaziland, 1957. Alan Shepard becomes the first American in space aboard Freedom 7, 1961. Ann B. Davis, American stage and screen actress. She was in a show called The Bob Cummings Show. I remember that. He was a photographer and she was his kind of assistant. It was very good show. I wonder if it's, you would probably find it on YouTube. The Bob Cummings Show. I do remember. And she also played Alice in the Brady Bunch. She died in 2014, but born in 1926. Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, becomes the ruler of the Mongol Empire. That was in 1260. Mary Keese is the first woman issued with a US patent for weaving straw. Who would have thought? 1809. Electronic cigarettes. We were talking about them yesterday. Electronic cigarettes. 2018 was the year, this was the day, when an electronic cigarette exploded in a man's mouth. St. Petersburg, Florida. The first death from vaping. Good God. I wish I'd seen that yesterday. Napoleon Bonaparte, French military leader and emperor, dictator, 1821. He dies in exile on the island of St. Helena. Tammy Wynette. Tammy Wynette. Do you like her, Pete?
Yes, yeah.
Tammy Wynette, American country singer, Stand By Your Man. She was born in 1942, hospitalized in 1992, died unfortunately in 1998. Hope she didn't spend all those years in hospital. God. The Panic of 1893 took place on this day, causes a very large crash on the New York Stock Exchange. But you can count on one of those, I reckon, like a flood, really, like an outback flood. You can count on one of those every 20 to 25 years. Pretty much regular as clockwork. Mahatma Gandhi was freed from prison in 1944. Anyway, I hope if you're remembering the day for any reason at all, personal reason, that it's a good day, that it will be a great day. It's an interesting thought here. $67 billion is a lot of money. $67 billion a year on average is passed from one generation to the next. I've never seen anyone put a figure on that before. That's inheritance. That's just in Australia, and that's just 1 year. No wonder the government would like to reimpose death duties. Golly. But that's not really the story. A surprising 87% of young people, girls and boys, want their parents and grandparents to enjoy their money while they're alive. Now, that's encouraging to hear, but when you think about them doing the survey and you would say to, kids who are probably already out there spending their inheritance, why wouldn't you just let your oldies enjoy their money while they're alive? Well, of course they're going to say, of course, you'd be a mean bloody brat, wouldn't you, if you said, no, I want it. Don't spend it. But let's look at it on the surface. It's encouraging, isn't it? The kids are saying to their parents, you enjoy your money. You spend it on yourselves while you can. I like that. Spending the kids' inheritance. Spending the kids' inheritance. Yes, I do like that. No doubt that'll get back. Where was I? Do you remember the story that we had last week, or maybe it was the week before, about the Rat Tsar? The Rat Tsar appointed by the mayor of New York to do something about the rat plague. Well, she's only been in the job for a couple of weeks, but the problem is getting bigger. It's really getting out of hand. SBS, in fact, sent a camera crew over to New York to do a documentary on the subject. They've sent a team over to New York. Now, I don't know when it's going to be on television, but apparently they've captured some amazing footage of these rats. You know, the size of cats, big rats. They are very aggressive. If you're sitting at an outdoor cafe, which is not recommended, it's not unusual, apparently, to have a rat jump up on the table and take a slice of pizza right out of your hand. They estimate that there are over 3 million rats running around Manhattan. 3 million. Yeah, that's an awful lot of rats. Now, I don't know, when a problem gets that big, what the hell are you going to do about it? It's starting to affect the economy, tourism, and of course health. I think we could all agree that we don't want that kind of problem here. But I'm told it's all about maybe going back to the pandemic and rubbish piling up in the streets. It's a problem. Would you agree that we are over-governed in Australia? Would you, Pete?
Oh, definitely, yes.
I would. Over-governed, local government, state government, federal government, and of course, if the voice gets up, that'll be a fourth level of bureaucratic government. But here's a fun fact. How many public servants do you think there are in Australia? How many do you reckon, Pete?
Well, a lot, but I don't know how many.
Let me tell you exactly. 2,420,600 public sector workers, comprising 364,300 in the Commonwealth Government, 1,847,400 in the state governments. Then there are 208,900 in local government, and you notice that they don't call them public servants anymore. They are public sector workers. Interesting. Now, if you're wondering what all of these people cost us every year, are you sitting down? $98.7 billion a year. Over-governed? Ladies and gentlemen, we rest our case. I was going to say, you know I'm not paranoid. Well, I mean, maybe I am a bit paranoid. I try not to be paranoid. I think when I left you yesterday, we were talking about this great country, how great the country was, and how lucky, how fortunate we were and are to live in the greatest country in the world. But history is littered, of course, with great countries which have lost their way. Hubris, arrogance are an enemy. Do you know the greatest enemy for a country like Australia? In thinking about it, stewing on it? I think it's apathy. I wonder how it could be a city like Melbourne could possibly think it's okay to have a second drug injecting room, how Sydney could go woke, how the Greens with their Fruit Loop policies could possibly get a foothold, how a local council could have approved, thought that it was a good idea to have transvestites reading stories about same-sex marriage to toddlers. Apathy. That's how they got there. All of those things, and probably you can think of more. Our apathy. Now, if we don't watch out and stand up for decency, common sense, old-fashioned values, we are not passé. We're not losers. We're not irrelevant. We are average and normal. How can 3% of the population get away with making normal a dirty word? Apathy, that's how. Apathy. What we need is strength, pride, and tradition. But we've got to keep an eye on those values and not be afraid to enunciate them. I mean, I'm not saying hit people over the head with them. Everyone's entitled to be heard and entitled to have different values, I suppose. But let us not be robbed of this great country. Now, power prices are falling, I read. Really? Have you noticed that? I haven't. They closed the Liddell power station in New South Wales on Friday last week, the biggest in Australia. While, of course, the Chinese continue to build and open coal-fired power stations. You know, I've never heard any condemnation, any criticism ever of China over this. China has more coal-fired power stations than any other country in the world. They open 2 large coal-fired power stations every week. And which of our 2 economies is doing better? I think you can guess. Now, I'm coming to believe that the people who lead us are trying to destroy us. I'm not saying willfully, I'm saying maybe carelessly. But nevertheless, the result could be exactly the same, our destruction. We have more coal than anyone. Australia should be an energy powerhouse, not just a power station. China, by the way, have 1,118 coal-fired power stations. India have 285. The US, 225. Japan, 92. Australia, this huge country, we have 23. Yet these woke flat earthers would be rejoicing at the closure of Liddell. In this highly competitive world, these climate change warriors should not only not be listened to, but they should be put back in their box, if that is at all possible. We don't have to rewire Australia, even if you believe in all this climate hyperbole. We contribute almost nothing to global emissions, 1.3%. 1.3%. We could close every factory, turn off every light, and first of all, no one would notice, but secondly, no one would say thank you. These idiots are going to be quite happy closing down power stations, industry, put power bills through the roof, wreck the economy, all for nothing. And that's another example of our apathy. We go along with it. Near as I can figure, we're happy to go along with it. Apathy. Let's try and get rid of that. Have I got time to read a little note that it's in here somewhere. It turned up in a Sydney paper. I don't know if anyone else saw it or noticed it. It was written by Dame Edna Everage, and it was about the death of Barry Humphries. It turned up in the Telegraph. This is Dame Edna writing this after Barry was dead. Dame Edna Everidge writes, Barry Humphries was an unknown aspiring actor and would-be comedian when I first met him in the early 1950s. It is true that he put me on stage for the first time in December 1955. But it was in order to belittle me and get cheap laughs. And get cheap laughs at my expense and ridicule the great Australian way of life. How the tables were turned. I became the star and he merely a footnote to my spectacular career. His tragedy was his desire to be an artist when we know what happens to failed artists. Hitler, for example. They either become interior decorators or mass murderers. I don't think I can see. You know, I can see him writing this. Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. Yes, mass murderers. Barry was spared this fate. He became rich due to my efforts and signed up to a contract that bound me for life. Yeah, signed her up to a contract that bound her for life. He had a lovely family, and my heart goes out to them, as well as to his unfortunate wives and numerous stage-struck research assistants. Dear, oh dear. If these words seem uncharitable in the context of an obituary, I am fortunate that the Daily Telegraph, unsurprisingly, was eager to publish them. It was, I gather, a letter to the editor, which turned up on April 22. Yes. Have a wonderful weekend, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeremy Cordo. Bless you. Believe in yourself. See you Monday. Peter and I will be back. Bye for now.